This is LSAT PrepTest 136, Section 1, Passage 4. This is a science passage about the discovery of nuclear fission, medium difficulty passage. The content's pretty straightforward here, but the author has a specific argument buried inside what looks like a history lesson, and if you miss the argument, you're going to answer questions about the story rather than the point. Now, the passage is doing something sneaky here. It looks like it's telling you how nuclear fission was discovered, but it's arguing instead that scientific breakthroughs get delayed because researchers can't see past their own assumptions. The fission story is just the proof for that claim. Now, the most important paragraph is paragraph 3. That's where I'll spend the most time, but we'll build up to it. Now, paragraph 1 is the setup, and it's doing two jobs at once. The first few sentences give you the author's thesis directly. Scientific understanding does not build smoothly on data. Evidence gets ignored. Breakthroughs get overlooked. Then the author pivots into the specific case, splitting the atom 1934 to 1939. You get the key names, Fermi, Meitner, and the fact that Meitner made the crucial theoretical connection. But notice what the author slips in at the end. Scientists compiled evidence that fission had been achieved without recognizing what they were witnessing. That phrase there is the whole passage in miniature. This tells you exactly what the author cares about. Then paragraph 2 gives you the reason everybody was blind. You want to read this at a moderate speed. The point here is that theoretical physicists had already shown splitting atoms should be possible in principle. But the experimenters weren't trying to do it, and they weren't open to the possibility it could happen by accident. Then you get the common view that breaking a uranium nucleus would be like throwing a pebble through a window to collapse a house. In other words, it's ridiculous, it's impossible. And this paragraph exists to explain why smart people looked at the right data and saw the wrong thing. This is building the case that assumptions were the real obstacle. Now, paragraph 3, you want to slow way down here. This is long and every part of it matters. Meitner picks up the Italian research. Fermi and others find strange radioactive substances from bombarding uranium, and nobody can identify them. The author gives you two reasons why they stayed unidentified. The first is practical. They were tiny quantities, dangerous materials hard to analyze. But then the author says more significantly and gives you the real reason. Everyone expected the products to be elements close to uranium on the periodic table, and that expectation made them blind to what was actually happening. Don't skim past the phrase more significantly because the author is ranking the causes for you. The practical problems matter less than the wrong assumption. And then the story accelerates. Meitner flees Nazi Germany. Hahn keeps experimenting. And Hahn writes to Meitner with a shock. One of the substances is barium. And barium has no business being there if the old model's right. Its atomic structure would make it impossible to produce through any known mechanism. And here's where it gets specific. Hahn noticed that the chemical evidence went against all previous experience of nuclear physics. But he also noticed something that should have been a dead giveaway. The protons in the barium and technetium added up to the number in a uranium nucleus. And the math was staring everybody in the face, it turned out. The atom had been split, and nobody had said it yet. Paragraph 4 is short and wraps up the story. Meitner connects the experimental data to theory. She coins the term nuclear fission. She publishes fast. Other scientists confirm it. And then, and this is the author driving the thesis home, it became clear the relevant evidence had been there for some time. Everybody just lacked the right conceptual link. So that tells us it was the thinking that was the problem, not the evidence. Now, the key move here is the gap between having evidence and understanding what it means. And the hardest questions will test whether you see that distinction. Fission wasn't discovered late because the experiments failed. It was discovered late because nobody had the right way to interpret experiments that had already succeeded. Now, the author thinks assumptions actively blocked progress. Not slowed it down, but blocked it entirely. The main trap here is treating this as a neutral timeline of events. Students who read it that way will grab answers that describe what happened instead of why it took so long. And that's how you're going to get main point and author's attitude questions wrong. Now, you want to know that Meitner is not just another character in the story. She's the person who broke through the barrier of assumptions. So the passage treats her contribution as different in kind from everybody else's. Hahn found the surprising data. Meitner understood what it meant. And so if a question asks you to distinguish their roles, that's the difference. Now, before you hit the questions, you want to make sure you're clear on these three things. First, why does the author rank the causes of the failed identification in paragraph 3? Second, what exactly did Meitner contribute that Hahn didn't? And third, what does the author mean by the right conceptual link at the very end?